Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else. Don't make me turn this website around.
But Chris in Toronto, thanks for waiting. You have a question for me and David.
Hey, Matt. Hey, David. How are you?
Great. Doing well.
Good, good. Yeah, so I have a question for you guys. It's kind of a dark question, but I'm really curious what your opinion is. So I'm an atheist. I used to be a Christian, and I became an atheist, ironically, watching shows like The Atheist Experience several years ago. And Matt, watching a lot of your stuff as well.
Why is that ironic?
Short, my uncle I don't know, but let me tell you the story, and you'll see why. So my uncle passed away several years ago, and he was very religious, as I was at the time. And he was somebody who was always talking about God, always talking about Jesus, went to church every Sunday, all that stuff. And he passed away from cancer. And I remember eventually he was given less than a month to live. And this freaked everybody out. But I remember during that month, my uncle wasn't really saying all that much. He was very, very quiet. And I remember there were times where, someone in my family would bring up God or Jesus in front of him, and his eyes would just open up, and he just wouldn't say anything. One of the things that I kind of wondered was he questioning his religion during that last month of his life, which freaked me out.
Did you have any way to find the answer to that?
I remember. I never did. No, I never did. And to be honest, looking back on it, I don't know if I should have asked him about it. I was scared to ask him about it, to be honest with you, because the last thing I wanted to do was to give him doubt, if it wasn't already there, of his religious beliefs. I mean, I can't imagine how terrible or how terrifying that would be just before you're about to die, to question where you're going to go. And so I don't know if that was the wrong decision or the right decision. Sorry.
No, I've said before. So, yes, we know that people in scenarios like near death will reevaluate some things, but I don't think that someone dying is the right time to come in and start talking to them about, hey, you might be wrong about this religion thing. Or, it's not like if they came to me, I'm happy to do it. If they want to have the conversation, I'm happy to dig in, but I'm not running around to people who are dying going like, have you reconsidered this whole Jesus thing yet? And I hate it when it's done the opposite direction. As a matter of fact, so there's a magician named Dean Dill, who's deceased now, who was a barber and a Christian and a really, good magician, invented stuff. But there's another magician named Jerry Andrus, who was a lifelong humanist who, as far as anybody I can talk to can demonstrate, the guy never told a lie and lived an honorable life. And yet when Jerry found out he was dying, evidently Dean Dill kind of harassed him a bit about, you need to find Jesus before you die. You need to find Jesus before you die. And to me, that's similarly appalling to, have you stopped believing in God? Like when my grandma was dying, we had conversations, but they were conversations she wanted to have. And it wasn't about her questioning. I don't think she ever questioned. It was about her understanding where I came from, or where I was coming from with my view. So
yeah, I'll add, I totally agree with Matt, by the way. Like 1,000,000,000% agree. Like, that's not the time. I'll just say I totally agree with Matt on this regard.
You can do it at Christmas though, if somebody's being a prick. Otherwise, let's just enjoy Christmas. But
yeah. So eventually he passed away, and this is basically how I became an atheist. Is I wanted to verify that my views, that he was going to a better place and he was going to be with God. And so I did a lot of research. I wanted to verify my views scientifically, and so I focused primarily on the existence of the soul and the existence of either heaven or hell. And long story short, I did a lot of research, couldn't find evidence for either of them. And eventually I had no choice but to put my views of Jesus and Christianity on the side in hopes that, you know, maybe I'd be able to verify those views down the road, but I never did. And that's why I'm an atheist. But that's the question that I had for you guys is the one thing that makes me nervous is I don't know. My whole family's religious, and they're getting older, and they're not the healthiest people in the world. I don't know how to have that conversation with them if that conversation arises. And to be honest, I'm actually hoping it doesn't arise, because there's, you know, my parents are at that age right now where the last thing I want them to do is to question their religious beliefs. I would rather that when the time comes that they go comfortably. But if they ever question, and they know I'm an atheist, they know what my views are, if they ever question their beliefs in that time, I don't know what to say to them. And so I was just curious, you know, what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah. So for me, the last thing I would want my parent to do would be to question their beliefs will never leave my mouth, except for now when I'm saying that they'll never leave my mouth, because I want everybody to question their beliefs right up to the moment they're dying. It's just that it's not the right time for me to go in and say, have you started questioning your beliefs yet? I've been waiting all these years for you to do it. And that's not it. But would I be happy for them to question it right up to the last second? Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
I also agree with this. And so, like, you as a proselytizer, maybe, you know, you pick and choose what you think is right. But I agree with Matt completely on this. And, you know, I think you have your head in the right place right now, to tell you the truth. That's my personal opinion. I think
maybe right. I guess maybe this is too big of a question or whatever, but I was just curious how you guys, because you know, you just said that you would be happy if they question their beliefs, you know, even up to the point where, you know, they're about to go. How would you deal with that? I mean, what would you say to them?
I would just ask, how do you feel about this? What do you think about it? What are your thoughts on it? What are you feeling right now? Feel it out. Ask them how they feel.
And be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
When my grandmother, so I have no grandparents left. The last grandparent I had alive was my favorite grandmother. She died at the age of 91 about 2 years ago. And when she asked me a question that had anything to do with religion or atheism or my thoughts or after death or anything else, I was absolutely honest with her. And I also would call her out on her shit, because I loved her so much. Absolutely. We were two peas in a pod. We didn't agree on the religion thing, but it wasn't going to stop us. We both loved to play cards. So here I am with my 91-year-old grandma sitting at a table in my aunt's house playing cards. And she was like, oh, getting old is hell. Nobody should live this long. Getting old is terrible. Nobody should live this long. And I looked at her and I said, I kind of wish I'm able to live long enough so that I can still be playing cards with my grandkids when I'm 90. And she's like, well, yeah, that's a good point. And I was like, that's good. It's like, we can just agree on everything except for this one little thing. And she voted for Hillary, despite the fact that nobody in the family would have expected it, and you know, kind of wrote her off as, you know, diehard Republican. I remember in 2016, she asked me, she's like, what do you think of that Trump guy? And I was like, Grandma, I don't want to talk politics with you because I like you. and she was like, right. I don't like Trump at all. I'm voting for Hillary. And I was like, you're the best grandma ever. But she already was.
And, And Chris, I'll add, the things you're feeling are very common. Like I just want you to know, a lot of people feel the way you're feeling. This is a thing that people feel about this time in their parents and grandparents' lives, especially if you're somebody who comes from a community like this, or most people who've been most people with like who've gone and gotten a degree in higher education, or anybody who's left their religious beliefs behind. This often happens about this time in your life. And so, yeah, I think there should be some comfort in knowing this is a common feeling. Also, you know, when you have if you do decide to want to have this conversation, like, try to avoid having an argument that you'll never be able to come back from. That's not what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to have a compassionate, empathetic conversation with somebody at the end of their life about how they think, feel, and believe about something. Also, don't think you can even take it away from them. Like I know that fear, like, I hope I don't do this, and it takes away this thing that's very valuable to them, and they're going to feel really sad and scared, and they're going to look into the yawning abyss at the very last days of their lives. You don't have that kind of power over people. That's not going to happen. That it's okay to have these conversations.
Right.
On that note,
okay,
Chris,
guys.
you gotta decide who's hanging up on whom.
Oh, I got to hang up on you guys.
All right.
All right, you guys have a good night. Thank you so much for taking my call.
I will sit here and talk until you've hung up on me, because that's exactly the type of pleasure that I know people want to get. I hung up. Like, eventually there's going to be I hung up on Dillahunty t-shirts and stuff.
No, that's good. I'm going to get those made up.
We'll see.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.